Hello, and welcome to Shades of Pleasure, a podcast celebrating pleasure, sexuality, and the vibrant, inclusive spectrum of love, gender, and relationships. I'm your host, Mo, and with me are my co-hosts, Melissa, Wayne, and Kelly. And together we hope to dismantle tropes that no longer suit us and change the narrative towards more authentic living. Okay.
So, in all this preamble to what we're going to talk about today and all the circles we went through, I think what has been coming up for a lot of us with our clients is this idea of sort of the blame game or somebody being the actual problem, which in our world is called the identified patient. So, it's worth us kind of, even if we just give some examples of what we're seeing happen, of the patterns we're seeing happening, and that we're honest about there's no black and white answer. There's no easy fix. You know, we kind of kept naming the problem, saying, well, great, that's great, we can name the problem, but then how are we going to tell people to fix it? That's not, I don't know that we're going to be able to do that, but we can at least give examples in our experience and what's going on and talk about it through that lens.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Good enough?
Yeah. Can I share what you shared, Wayne, or do you want to share it?
No, by all means.
Okay, so Wayne brought up a topic from the male perspective of the men potentially in clients that we see, and the men are sort of like they don't know their role anymore, right? With women sort of like shifting and changing. Women are, this is how I framed it. I said, women used to need a provider. Women used to need the muscle. And men took on that role easily for a century, 2 centuries. I don't even know how long. And now, women don't need a provider. Most women will make their own money. The muscle, you know what's funny is there's this group in Portland. They're called Rent-A-Butch. So you can literally hire a woman to come and do the work. So a lot of women that live alone, they don't want to hire a man to come and do the work inside their home. So here in Portland, they can rent a butch, and these women will come and do the work on your house. And it's, you know, women that live alone feel a lot safer. So we're in a time where we don't even need men for their muscle, right? You could rent a butch. Or many women like Kelly Jones do their own roofing and, you know, building and things like that. I wish I was like that, but I also have lots of female friends that do that. I'm a little bit envious, but it's just not something.
But you also built your whole ass business, Mo. So
yeah, but I have a different kind. Like I'm more cerebral than I am like physical, I guess. Mm. But that's sort of like piggybacking on this idea that, so what do women want from their partners now? And I think what women want aren't equal. And the question became like, for men, like, what does that mean? How do they become an equal? Because the roles used to be so clearly defined, and now the roles are not so clearly defined. Is that a good way of saying it, Wayne?
That's a great way of saying it. Yeah. And I think that, yeah, and without men really understanding their roles, it's going to be a struggle. Like it is a struggle, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, how do I fit in? Like if we're not having these traditional roles, like what is my role?
Yeah. And then from there, we brought that into the therapy room because I see this, Kelly sees it, Melissa sees it, we see it all in the therapy room as well. But what I often see is the women are so frustrated by the time they come to therapy, they're like, hands are crossed, I don't want to deal with him, fix him. And so then we've got what we have on our hands is what we call the identified patient. The blame is all being put on the guy, and the pressure is all on the guy to change, to be fixed, to quote, catch up, right? And I'm struggling with that. And I think this is partially why I'm like kind of getting frustrated with this like traditional therapy model. Because I can't work in a situation where I'm being asked to hold the identified patient. Like I'm sort of colluding with this blame game, for lack of a better term.
No, I like that, but and I do want Wayne to sort of interject what some of his male clients are saying. You know, we were asking, you were saying how they were sort of this idea that hey, everything's been okay. Like why do I have to be a different man kind of thing.
Yeah, right. And from what like, I guess what I'm an example of what I'm saying is like, is if like if a person, the woman identifying in a relationship is agreeing to things as the years go on and showing up, and then and then eventually it comes to this point to where she may feel like, hey, look, yeah, that's not, I don't like that. Yeah, I don't really want to do that. And so it could almost feel like a betrayal almost, right? Or it could feel like like what do you mean you don't like this? Like you've been liking it, we've been doing this. Like what are you talking about? And she may be like, yeah, I haven't liked it for a while. And so it's almost like, well, I tell my clients like this is why it's so important that you speak up when you feel it. Right. So no one doesn't feel like it's like they're being ambushed or it's just coming out of nowhere. Like you're speaking up about it. So yeah, it can almost feel like that. And so what's happening is that it's like, well, why can't you just be like you were? Why can't you just be the same? I've even said that within this relationship years ago. And and even to something Kelly had said about like I almost felt like it wasn't our problem, it was a her problem. And so and I realized, and she would say all the time, like, no, it's us. And I'm like, how is it us? Like, and it took me some time once I realized, like, oh wow, it is us because I'm still showing up in the way that I'm showing up, and and so yeah, all of that, yeah.
Yeah, can I speak to that point just a little bit?
Hmm.
It's something that I don't only talk to my couples clients about this. I talk to my individual clients. I'm like, listen, at this point, if you've been married or together or dating or whatever, if you've been involved with someone for a long enough time, or even maybe a short amount of time, whatever problems they've brought to the table are affecting the way that you two engage each other. So therefore, it's affected how you've created a relationship and it's affecting the way you are today, however short or long that time is. And so, yes, there may be a specific thing that one person brought to the table, but if we're in therapy trying to deal with it, it is an us, a y'all, a collective, a whatever. And I think it's that's what we're talking about when Mo's saying of the blame game or the identified patient, we kind of collude in separating it out when really if what they're wanting to do is work on the relationship and the way that they engage with each other, then that's what we need to be dealing with. And if they need to be doing some other personal work, fine, great, whatever. But that's, that's where it gets complicated.
Yeah, it's making some. One of you just said something. I can't remember if it was Kelly or Wayne, about it's her problem. I really liked that. Like, if they're coming in and blaming, then it's not the person on the receiving end of the blame, it's the person doing the blame that has the problem. I think that's a really um, good reminder.
Yeah.
That's also a very progressive way and a very that pushes back on all sort of like heteronormative kind of things. Like, well, no, if your partner's not comfortable with it, then obviously that something needs to be done about it. I think without sharing too
Yeah.
much about your life, Mo, I think that's something you've worked on a lot recently. Like, oh, wait, if something doesn't feel comfortable, then it's not about trying to control the other person. It's about me figuring out what doesn't feel okay. So
Yeah.
that takes us to a whole other level.
You
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Go ahead, Wayne.
Sorry, you just brought something. I just had to share some of my clients the other day. This between boundaries and control, because I don't think they understood the difference. Like that's not a boundary. That's control.
Right.
For whatever reason, you're trying to control a situation because you feel uncomfortable, you feel afraid, or whatever the thing is. But that's not boundary. That you're placing on yourself. You're putting in a control mechanism.
Yeah, I think when we say boundaries, it's like boundaries are something that you can do for yourself, right? And so people come into our office and they want to change and fix the other person, right? We can't. I had this conversation with a client yesterday because he showed up individually and did the same thing, right? Did this like, well, she's always angry and she's this and this and this and this and this. And I said, well, I try to like shift it back. But in the end, what I ended up having to do is like really just full on psycho ed. Like, we can't fix or change her. number one, she's not in the room. Number two, like in life, you can't make someone do something.
Yeah.
Even this idea, oh, she needs to go to individual therapy, like that's a conversation we might have been having. And like, we don't get to make that decision. The thing that we get to work on here with you present is how you can manage your behavior, how you can manage your feelings, and what boundaries can you set when
Yeah.
you don't like how things are going. What boundaries can you set? And I gave examples of boundaries that he could set if she was angry and he felt uncomfortable, right?
Yeah. I think this is something I've done with a lot of people. So I would love to hear how you would differentiate these two things. Um, I think people get ultimatums and boundaries really,
Mm-hmm.
those get really mixed up. So it's been really fun for me to sit with clients and like, okay, what's your definition of a boundary? What's your definition of an ultimatum? And so I know I've kind of come to my place where I've landed with it, but I'm curious for you, Mo, what do you think the difference is
Oh, I
between?
think that's a great question. So an ultimatum is it what Wayne was saying, it's control,
Yeah.
right? Like
Mhm.
if you don't stop this behavior, we're done. Okay.
It's an okay, go ahead.
And so that forces the other person to have to choose,
Mhm.
basically between the relationship and or changing their behavior. But let's say they do change their behavior to save the relationship. Now they did it under this guy. Someone else is controlling the strings essentially. A boundary, on the other hand, is like if you continue to do this, this is what I'm going to do. And leaving the relationship is an extreme example. I like to work with my clients on the least restrictive, right? Like if you're going to continue this behavior, I'm going to, and if the behavior is some sort of um, like anger, we'll use the example of getting angry, and I don't feel comfortable, I'm going to go for a 15-minute walk. I'm going to go
Mm,
to the grocery store, a 15-minute increment. I'll be back, but I'm not going to stay or stick around for those moments where I don't feel comfortable. Right?
yeah.
Like that's a boundary.
Some you just
That's not saying, "Hey, if you don't change, I'm going to." It's not giving the other person a choice. It's just
Yeah.
basically saying, "This is what I'm going to do."
yeah. Yeah.
But can I just say one thing real quickly, Wayne, before
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said I've been doing this for a while with clients. And so now I sort of listen for something because I'm looking for validation that my theory is correct, right? And I think I just heard it in what Mo said. And basically both and whatever, this is just my half cocked idea. But whether it's an ultimatum or whether it's a boundary, it's still an if then. But it's an if then, and is it the then you have to do a certain thing, or then I'm going to do something. Does that make sense? So a boundary is like if it happens, then I'm going to do this.
Right.
Yes.
And the other person could still see it as an ultimatum, but
Of course, but
what it is really, it's a form of self-care. And a self-care might be like, I have to leave this relationship because I need to protect myself or
yeah,
self-respect or whatever.
yeah,
It's not an ultimatum though at that point when
Yeah.
you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Ultimatum is delivered to the other person as a choice they have to make.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's in the delivery though, right? Is that what you're getting at, Kelly?
I think it's in the person who's going to take the not the ultimate action, but I feel like in one scenario, it is like someone's going to take action to take care of themselves, and the other person's going to have to take action that they don't really want to do. They didn't want to do what they feel forced into doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Hmm.
All
Mm.
right.
So, what are we going to do with our clients?
No, 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 Mo, you brought up a couple of things. You had said like the ultimatum. Like I don't think that people truly understand how that if someone stays after they choose, if they have to choose between the two and then they stay, I don't think that the person who just gives the ultimatum really understands how that affects the relationship now moving forward. How that person now is going to show up, and they're probably going to have a lot of resentment, all the things that and I just I don't know if people really understand that, right? And
Yeah.
also I think that when you had said about like choosing yourself, like again I can see how somebody can see that as their partner being selfish, but it really is them taking care of themselves. It's not being selfish at all. Like I'm again I'm this is me not just loving myself but loving us enough to let you know what I'm doing instead of staying and punishing you or whatever the case may be, right? And not taking care of myself, you know.
I think the ultimatums, yes, they're a form of control. And when people are setting them, I would say they are coming from a dysregulated state,
Yeah.
right? They're in a state of such severe dysregulation, anxiety, panic, trauma, trauma response that is what comes out, right? The potential for setting boundaries is better and stronger when we're regulated,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That
that's, oh, go ahead, Melissa.
I was well, I'm gonna and mine might shift us a little bit, so you can finish, Kelly.
Mine might too, actually,
Oh, okay.
because what as she's talking, I'm thinking about something that I had a therapist say to me once, and it was really, really difficult to say, and I've kept that in my back pocket. And I only just recently said it to a client for the first time, and it was difficult to say. And the therapist was like, I I see how much you're struggling. I get it. I see how hard you worked, everything. But she's like, and at the end of the day, if you were to take radical responsibility, you got to see your part in this. And that was hard to hear, right? And so I think that radical responsibility is when you're kind of like deciding, wait, am I setting a boundary, or am I setting an ultimatum, or what is it that I'm showing up for? What is it I'm asking for? What, like, how is it that I'm actually acting? Because at the end of the day, it's all going to come back to me and my actions and my decisions. And did I take care of myself? Did I not take care of myself? With that radical responsibility, but maybe that changes
I
subjects.
love that. I love radical responsibility.
Oh my gosh, it was in a bad spot, and it was hard to hear. And she knew, so she delivered it well, but I mean, it landed. It was one of those
I think
moments.
that's what happens is like the person that's doing the blaming is also dysregulating and they're not seeing their role in it,
That
right?
was where I was. And so my
Yeah.
therapist called me out on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
You got
good.
yours because
Yeah, I do.
yeah.
I mean, well, Mo and Kelly pretty much did it,
Oh,
but it's okay. No, it's fine. It's great. It's because that's exactly where I was going to go. I was going to say, I think we just pulled a melly. I named the thing that we do, Kelly. It's a melly. Okay, it's called a
A
when we
Calissa?
do the well. Let's look at this, guys. How about this part of this?
yeah.
So the melly is what I was going to bring up was. Because Mo, you asked the question like, how do we bring this back into the therapy room or our clients or whatnot? And pretty much what you both said together of like, you know, just asking the question or maybe getting curious about why is it like, what is the motivation for so-called, um, what is the ultimatums, or also the blame thing? Like, what is the motivation for our clients? Like, where does that come from? You know, why do they feel, where does that type of response come from?
Mhm.
And I mean, like what you said, fear of what is like,
Goes back
I
to
don't
the
know,
beginning, fear.
fear. I know it goes right back to the beginning what we talked about. And what I see often is like this fear that we have to grip so hard, we have to fight so hard in this each other, blame, figure out who to blame, figure out the identified patient or problem, and do ultimatums because like each of them are so afraid of losing something,
Yeah,
whether
you
it's
want to
losing,
hold on.
yeah, we're just gripping so hard, whether losing themselves or losing, or like this fear that if I soften in this, then that person wins and or like they don't get to be accountable for the things that hurt me or something like that, you know? And they're dysregulated and they're just wanting to find that homeostasis that we talk about, just wanting to find something. And I think the best way that they know how to do it in that moment is to blame or to give ultimatums, is to just like be reactive versus our job is like helping to slow things down a little bit, and just ask themselves those questions like, why the ultimatum? Why an ultimatum?
Yeah.
Is this an ultimatum? Like, those types of things. Yeah.
Because they want the discomfort to stop.
Because they just want that feeling to
Yeah,
stop. It
yeah,
just boils down to that. Just like stop this uncomfortable,
yeah,
painful
But like you
feeling.
said, it's reactive. It's
Yeah,
It is.
and it ties it right back to what Wayne was saying at the beginning, that it's the homeostasis thing. Like, well, why can't it just be the way it's been? You
yeah.
know,
Exactly.
Mo identified as toxic masculinity and at some points.
I don't think we said that out loud, but
Oh, we said that before we got
said
Yeah,
on.
I mean,
that
yeah,
before.
yeah, because we were talking about something before we called. Yeah,
Just to
yeah,
give the audience context, in a situation where a partner is like, well, why does this have to change? Why can't we just go back to the way it was? Right. Um, and yes, I called it toxic masculinity because it was around a man saying that to his female partner, but this can be anyone,
yeah,
It
right?
could be around a woman who's been taking advantage of a man financially. It could be, I mean, it
Right.
could be
Like
around
people,
anyone setting a
people,
boundary or wanting things to change.
yes. Well, people change in relationships, right? Like we're constantly evolving as people, and when it happens within the confines of a mostly monogamous relationship, that's when it becomes really difficult because change is so scary,
yeah.
right? And people start grasping at straws, they start clutching really tightly to the way the relationship was.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something that actually came up for me that I had wanted to bring up about. Ooh, we could talk about this, but you just already talked about it. It's like when a partner, because change happens throughout the relationship. I don't know if people really understand how significant the change is. If someone, let's say, cheats or breaks the trust in a relationship, I don't think the partner the identifying partner who did the thing really understands how much that shifts and changes the dynamic of the relationship. Like that person is not going to be the same person you dated prior to the incident. And I think a lot of times people want that to go back. Like, well, now that you know, and I'm telling you, I'm sorry. Can we just be back how we were? That is no be back how we were. That is gone.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
It's a really hard that's a really hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, that the relationship is just changed now, right?
yeah,
You're in a new
Can
time.
I? Oh,
Yeah, go for it.
I was just gonna say, I'm gonna bring another Melly in here. Um, as listening to all this, and it's like, oh, it makes me think about the surrogacy work that we talked about, and possibly the need, for men. Like on one hand, we're talking about this toxic masculinity, which we're all feeling, especially women and whatnot. But also, I've always had kind of a sensitive spot for men, and what they deal with and what they experience. And it's like think that it could be helpful to like what therapy is good, conventional therapy is cool, but like what else could be out there for men to safely like really work this out, or not even work it out, not even to work it out, but just like see it, to feel it, to be in it, to have bring more awareness to this, to have a safer place for them to kind of be raw in it, because I feel like until you can really face it, nothing is going to change until we can really like be honestly engage with that, without having to, I don't know, what is the word I'm looking for? Like accountability, of course, is a must, is necessary. But like sometimes I think just being able to have that space to really just rawly see what's here, you
I mean,
know,
I think what
is
you're scared to
necessary.
say, because it's a scary thing to say right now, but I think what you're saying is like, how do we provide a safe space for men? And then like we're
Yeah.
all going to roll
How do
our
we support
eyes
the
on
men
like,
in
oh,
this?
like men,
Yeah.
Yeah, who?
safe
Yeah.
space,
Who
ugh,
supports the men? Where can we support
right?
the men? Like, where can men feel supported in this?
Yeah.
It's hard to say, but yeah,
Which is,
how can the
yeah,
change happen without that support?
Yeah.
yeah, which is why I think, I don't know if this was recorded at the beginning or not, but it's like, hey, we can identify the problem, but like, okay, if we were to say, hey, okay, if all these things have been taken away from you, then how do we, what are we teaching or what do we want people to
Yeah.
know? Or
What's the affirmative of
what's the
that? Like,
affirmative piece
right?
of it?
Hmm.
Yeah. And also it's, you know, it's a little annoying even to hear myself say, oh, well, how do we make a safe space for men? Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. I know we talked about this off camera about gender, and it made me think about like, like how we're kind of conditioned as young kids, as boys are conditioned and girls are conditioned. And I watched this documentary. I think it was either from Sweden, Switzerland, or or Norway. I can't remember. But anyways, they took these young kids. I think they were like age 5 to 6, whatever. They took these kids. They separated the boys from the girls. And it was experiment, whatever. They put the boys in girls' roles every day in school or whatever, and have them do these different tasks and things. They had the girls do all the boys things, and what happened was the boys would work together. They came together. They would do all these things together and really help each other out and compliment each other. And the girls were fighting, right? They were in competition with one another. They were competitive. So it does make me think. It makes me go back to this, like how we are raised from a young age. Kind of puts us in these roles of expectation and kind of identifying roles already before we even get to choose, and I think it's somewhat could be somewhat hurtful to us to an extent.
Yeah. I don't want to forget this. I just want to be clear that when I say how do we support men, I'm not implying that women should be doing that, you
no,
know.
but we
So
are as therapists, we are in a role where
yeah.
if a man or someone male identifying, or if a couple comes in and there's a male identifying person there, we are asked to assist them as well. And so how do we do that responsibly? How do we do that in a way we're not coddling sort of the toxic masculinity, and also offering help and support?
Hmm.
It's a sometimes frustrating and a very fine line to walk.
Yeah,
Mm.
it is. Which makes me think about, I mean, this was also off recording when we were talking about, what men, Wayne and raising boys or whatever, and like, that's a path, that's a potential path. I don't know, like other men, supporting other men in having these conversations and
Running for president.
Mm. Yeah, and I was about to say that. So, Freddie, you said I said, but then you,
Running for president. Are
yeah,
you glad I said that?
Maybe
yeah,
we
yeah,
should start a men's group that
right,
Wayne leads.
yeah.
Help
Because
them to help them understand what their new role is in the shifting climate.
I love it. I really love that. And I was going to say, especially with just the state of the world outside of the bubble, like when you look at the president, and how he shows up, it almost kind of reinforce, like, oh yeah, see, I can be like that. It's okay to be like that. It's okay to show up like that. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, yeah, we're like we talked about before, Mo. The shift has already happened. We're in it. Like, it's now you have to figure out how you're gonna show up in the shift. Like, you could either keep
Yeah.
trying to push the narrative that's not working for you, and now as you see more women are walking away from relationships, you have to wonder why. Like, it's another social experiment. They asked women, "Would you want to live in a world full of women?" And 9 times out of 10, the women said yes. They asked men, "Do you want to live in a world full of men?" Men like, hell no. So then we are the problem. Like, why don't we want to live in a world full of men? Like, if women can live in a world full of women, why would we not want to? So what is our issue? What is the problem? Like, that in itself, it says a lot.
Well, and that's the thing that I keep coming up against. It's like I don't want to make the man the identified patient, because that goes against how I believe and want to do work as a couples therapist.
Right.
However, right, like I also don't want to fall into this trap of like not taking sides when there might clearly be a problem, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
old school way of doing therapy of like, oh, we're just going to like be neutral and not take sides. Like that way of therapy is bullshit. right?
Yeah.
Like we can't collude with that form of
Yeah.
like, toxic therapy,
Yes.
we'll call it,
Yeah.
where we're like, well, we're not going to take sides, and so, what is your role in this too as a woman? When as a woman, they have so many reasons, from the macro, starting with oppression, to be upset, right? To
Yeah.
be, like rightfully angry. So
Yeah, I saw this thing. It's a
what do
social
we
media
do?
thing. It's a social media thing that goes around a lot. They talk about how, like, yeah, if you think about it, women don't want to be married because they're the ones who leave in the marriage. Women are filing for divorce at this high rate. And I'm thinking, like, if we can see that, we got to ask why. Why? Where's the why to that? Why are women filing for divorce at a high rate? What's happening to where they decide that, you know what? Yeah, I don't want this anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, I think
it's
actually,
scary.
this is probably another talk for another time. I don't even know if it's for this podcast, but I think it's very easy to see like the lineage of how that happened. And like, when I was born, the year I was born, women finally were able to have a credit card. Just a few years before that. Like it's funny. The person that I'm here doing this work with last night, almost kiddingly, but we were sort of looking at this and watching her family, and we're in a pretty old school part of the country, and we saw sort of the difference in how the women and the men engage in family and the decisions, even though some of the women have much more power, much more money. They're the older ones, but they're still deferring to sort of the younger men. And in my life, I get to choose whatever I want. And should I choose a man to be in it? Great, wonderful. And I think that could be healthy, happy, and beautiful. But
Yeah.
at this point, because we've progressed so much as far as like voting rights, being able to own property, being able to have a bank account, all these things. Like at this point,
They lose
that's an
equity.
accessory. Should you want it, get it. If you don't. I
Yeah.
don't mean to belittle men.
Yeah, I think that's the reality, and that's the truth. And like what you're talking about, to bring it back to Wayne's, situation with the couple or with the clients, where one partner is changing, and we've said this on this podcast before, women are waking up in
Yeah.
droves, right? To this idea that they don't need to be putting up with this. Like, it is not required for women to be married anymore to get a credit card. That happened 50 years ago, 50 plus years ago. But it's taken this long for women to be like, oh shit, I don't even need to do it for other social reasons, right? Like, women can get credit cards, they can buy their own homes, they can run their own businesses, they can whatever. They can have, if they need a partner, they can partner up with women that also have their shit together,
Yeah.
right? And it doesn't even have to be a sexual thing if they're not attracted to the woman sexually. Like, like I think that you're what we're talking about here is like, that's why, and that's what I believe, why I believe monogamy was created in the first place, to control women. And this idea that women should stay home and not, because without that, then what is the purpose of men, right? What is their purpose? And if they can't control, if men can't control women, then they're literally not going to get laid. And then what happens? I think that, that's a little bit of a derailment and a little bit of an oversimplification, but tell me
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
Yeah. And this is why, yeah, we
I don't
just
necessarily know they wouldn't get laid because we have sexual needs and some people have a preference for that. So I don't know they wouldn't get laid, but they wouldn't hold the power. It's a
But they
different.
wouldn't, but a bunch of them wouldn't, right?
Oh,
Like,
a bunch of them
monogamy,
wouldn't.
monogamy suggests that every single one of them can, because
yeah.
there's one for every person.
Yeah.
Without that, only the handsome ones, or the really amazing
desirable.
ones. The desirable ones are going to get laid.
Have something to add. Yeah.
The nice ones, the good looking ones, and
yeah. Hence, we need to, yep, you're right. We need to start a men's group, and just
But like, men need support to understand what it is that that what that means to be desirable, and that's what they're missing, because for
Yeah.
so long it meant being the fixer, being the
Yeah.
It's
provider.
very confusing.
It's very
It
confusing.
is confusing.
You know,
Yeah.
and then we're back to the playground, right? We're back to
Mhm.
being kids, and there's the popular guys, and then there's the not so popular guys who later become popular because maybe they have money, maybe they have power, or
Mhm.
maybe they grow into their looks. But what about the ones that don't have that? How can they show up in a way where they also get to be a part of society, and to have partnerships, and to be part of a collective,
Yeah.
and to have, to have friends and partners that rely on them and love them and like them and love
Yeah.
them, you know?
Yeah.
I love that because it just brings. I don't know if you guys heard of this whole Manosphere documentary. It's on Netflix. It's going around that, and it's yeah, it's pretty interesting. And I think that the minute you're speaking about just like how do these, I think that they kind of bought into this idea of how they need to be, and they spent a lot of money, made these individuals very rich, because they spent all their money trying to figure out women. And I think that it was the
Mm.
totally wrong way about doing it.
PUA, the pickup artists.
All the things like you need to be buff, you need to have a lot of money, you
Mm.
know all the things that you need to have, and then now you're just like all the other dudes walking around with in shape and got a little bit of money, and how do you separate yourself from those? That
I
so
mean,
that's the
those
goal right
guys,
now.
there's still an odd. So the thing is we haven't moved so far away from that those guys don't have an audience still. They do, because there are
Of
a lot of
course.
women that are still willing to be, homemakers, that are still willing to do that very, conservative, old school woman role. But I like a documentary that popped up on my thing was like a documentary about fathers who were supporting their trans kids, and I was like, that's what your clients need to see,
Mm,
right? Because that's the change that of the time that we're in, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can be that buff typical dude, or you can be a more humanitarian kind of person, right?
yeah,
That's not typical masculine or feminine. That's more like a person
yeah,
that supports their child when they transition, right? Like,
right.
that has nothing to do with masculine or feminine. You're just a human at that point, right? Like,
Mm,
we've got to dismantle the binary. That's
yeah.
really what it boils down to.
Yeah. So what I heard you say is that about the documentaries you spoke about, that's the change and shift. And the documentary I spoke about is that last ditch effort to hold on and not let go of the change and shift.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we live. This does become a bigger conversation about gender. Our society looks at masculine as a male gendered thing and feminine as a woman thing, but feminine and masculine do not belong to any gender, right?
Yeah.
We're all feminine and masculine, right? So we have to dismantle that binary of men and women needing to be masculine or feminine to move this needle. Men have
Yeah,
to get out of what they think it means to be a man, and strive to be human.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. Strive to be human. I love that. That's a great ending. Yeah, I love that.
I have a bazillion more things I can say, but I won't.
We want to hear them, Kelly. We want to hear.
Well, I'm out here looking at like an Amish farm and like learning, not learning for the first time, but like they won't educate the females past eighth grade if
Ooh.
not legally mandated by a state, and then they have no control. They can't leave their husband. They can't leave the farm. They aren't educated. They can't, like, there is none of, so it's just it's the whole control piece.
Yeah. We can look at so many different, we can look at religion same way. Like so
Oh,
many
oh,
pieces are
oh,
so
religion.
controlling, patriarchal. Like we know this. The system is
I know.
here. Yeah.
I think that I'm in a different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm like, but this phase.
Yeah.
And I do have to go. I love y'all dearly.
Are you getting back to the barn?
No, I come to town to get on the line to see my clients, and then
No.
in the mornings, I'm a farmer by day, therapist by night.
I love that.
It's It's 4 p.m. here, so
Oh, okay.
time to put my therapy hat on.
Okay.
All right, y'all. Well, good to see everyone, and we'll see you soon.
All right.
Okay. Bye, Kelly.
Bye. Thank you for listening. Shades of Pleasure podcast is currently unsponsored and is brought to you by Los Angeles Sex Therapy and Last Collective in partnership with Shades Therapy and Shades of Non-Monogamy. To support our endeavor so we can continue to bring this pleasurable content, please visit our Substack at pleasureforthemasses.substack.com. Thank you for listening, and until next time.